Samantha hiked deeper into the woods. The air grew colder, damper. The scent of pine filled her nostrils, sharp and clean. She shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. The trail wound upward through dense forest, then opened onto a rocky slope. She paused, catching her breath. From this vantage point, she could see a valley spread out below, and nestled in the valley, a town. It looked deserted. Samantha frowned. She hadn't seen any mention of a town on her map. Curiosity piqued, she continued down the trail. The sun was already beginning to dip behind the western peaks. She hoped she could reach the town before nightfall. The town was eerily silent. Buildings stood desolate, windows dark and empty. Doors creaked open like mouths gasping for breath. Samantha walked down the center of the dusty street. Her footsteps echoed in the stillness. A sudden gust of wind whistled through the empty streets, sending a shiver down her spine. She quickened her pace, her unease growing. The silence was unnerving. It wasn't just the absence of sound. It felt heavy, oppressive, as if the very air were holding its breath. Panic began to claw at the edges of her composure. She had to get out of here, now. Samantha spun around, searching for the path she had taken. But the street had shifted, the buildings rearranged themselves, the path was gone. She was trapped. Samantha tried to calm her racing heart. There had to be a way out, she just had to think clearly. But the silence pressed in on her, suffocating her thoughts. Fear tasted metallic in her mouth. Night fell. Shadows stretched and twisted, mimicking the contorting buildings. The darkness seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. Samantha huddled in the doorway of an abandoned general store, her back pressed against the cold wood. Every creak of timber, every rustle of wind sent her heart racing. She imagined unseen eyes watching her from the darkness. She was utterly alone, lost in a town that seemed to exist outside of time and reason. Section 5, The Fog Descends. A thick fog rolled in, blanketing the town in an eerie white silence. It swirled around her, cold and damp against her skin. Samantha coughed, waving her hand in front of her face. Visibility was reduced to mere feet. She could barely see her hand in front of her face. The fog muffled all sound, amplifying her sense of isolation. The town felt like a living, breathing entity closing in on her. Section 6, A Glimmer in the Darkness. Then, through the swirling fog, she saw it. A light, faint, flickering, but definitely there. Hope surged through her, chasing away the icy grip of fear. She stumbled towards it, her heart pounding. As she drew closer, she could make out the outline of a building, a church. Its stained glass windows glowed faintly, casting distorted shapes onto the fog. Maybe someone was inside. Maybe she could find help. Section 7, Fading Hope. She reached the heavy oak doors and threw them open. The interior was dark and silent. The air hung heavy with the scent of decay and dust. The light she had seen flickered and died. Samantha stood frozen, her hopes crumbling around her. The silence returned, deeper and more oppressive than before. It pressed in on her, suffocating her with its emptiness. Section 8, Vanishing Point. She turned to leave, to escape back into the fog, but the doors were gone. She ran her hands over the smooth wood, her heart pounding against her ribs. No handle, no hinges, nothing. She was trapped, truly trapped. The fog pressed against the windows like 1,000 unseen eyes peering in. The silence stretched, endless and consuming. Samantha sank to the floor, her back against the cold wood. She closed her eyes, surrendering to the inevitable. The town had claimed her.